The deeper we get into this course, the more interesting it becomes. Welcome back, everyone. Today we are going to be learning about typography and wireframe. Let's get started. In the last video, we talked about shapes and wireframe, where we discussed low fidelity wireframe. Now, this is typography and wireframe, but now we are going to be diving into high fidelity wireframe. If you haven't seen the previous video, please go watch that video before diving into this one, because this is a continuation of where we stopped the last time. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so now and hit the notification icon so you'll be notified at any time when I upload new videos. Now let's start with the definition of typography. Now, what is typography? Typography is when you arrange letters and text in ways that make copy legible, clear, and visually appealing to the reader. So it involves font style, appearance, structures. They all aim to elicit certain emotions and convey specific messages. Typography actually brings text to life. So what are the importance of typography? The first thing is that typography helps build brand recognition. When you talk about typography for different brands, you talk about Chanel, you talk about Nike or Adidas. Once you see the Adidas font without actually seeing the logo, you already know that it's Adidas. So that is what they are trying to say, that it builds brand recognition. Another thing that it does is it influences decision making. If you want to say buy something now on a card, you don't want to use a very, very small font to say buy something. You really want them to actually click to buy something. So you try to make it as legible as possible. And the third one is that typography holds the attention of the readers. You don't want to make your typography look so jacked up. When your type and fonts look so unclear, when you are actually writing so many texts, it becomes so uninteresting, becomes boring, becomes hard to read, and it doesn't actually get the reader's attention. So you want to make sure you have fonts that are readable, clear, and nice. Now, categories of types. We have the serif, we have the sans serif, and we have the display or decorative. For the serif is a slight projection finishing off a stroke of a letter in certain typefaces. Now, if you look at this font here, the T, you would notice that we have this curvy extended edge. It looks a little bit more stylish than you would write normal T using an handwriting. Serif means this projection of strokes that end the edges of a particular type. So when they say serif fonts or serif type, they mean types with such strokes. Now, sans serif. Sans, the word sans was originally derived from the French word without. So sans means without. So now when you say without serif, that's sans serif, it means you don't have projection of strokes by the edge of each alphabet. You have something more usual, something more generic. So it's sans serif without serif. Now, display is also known as decorative, and they are usually large, they are bold, they are eye-catching, they are used for headings and advertisements, they are used for calling people's attention to a particular thing, and you would notice this on billboards, you notice them on birthday cards, you notice them on wedding cards. That is what display texts are used for. They are used in a decorated fashion. Now, let us solve the case of fonts and typefaces. Now, this might have been causing confusion in a lot of people, but it is so easy to understand. A typeface is a family of related fonts, while fonts refer to weight, width, spacing, and styles, the design that constitutes a particular type. Now, it means a type is a design, while typeface means the relations of that particular font. Now, to help you understand how that works, you can mean font as type, and you can mean font face as typeface. Also, to help you understand in a better context, we have fonts or types. So when you say fonts or types, you are probably talking about Montserrat, Impact, Times New Roman, Helvetica, Bodoni, Calibri, Poppins, and so on. These are fonts or types. So when you're now talking about typefaces, you are talking about the different ways that these typefaces come in. In an example where we have Montserrat and Playfair display, we have Montserrat as thin, we have Montserrat as extra light, we have Montserrat as light, we have Montserrat and Playfair display as regular, we have them both as medium, semi-bold, bold, extra bold, and black. Now, all what you see here on this straight line of Montserrat, all what you see are typefaces of the font Montserrat. So they are typefaces of the type of font Montserrat. What you see here in the middle is the typefaces of the particular font called Playfair display. And now thin, extra light, light, regular, medium, these are the body that helps us understand different typefaces. They are just the name, so depending on how thin or bold they are. Now, we said earlier in our definition, we talked about fonts or typefaces working with emotions. If someone sends you a birthday card with the first font saying happy birthday, or someone sends you a card with the second font saying happy birthday, so which one do you think actually works with the mood of your birthday? I'm talking about people who actually see fun in celebrating birthday. I'm not talking about people like Wednesday Addams or people who are from the underworld or the Dracula world. I'm talking about actual people who live, who feel happy about their birthday. So what emotion does that bring to you? Is it the first font or the second font? I'll leave that for you to decide. You know what the answer is already, yeah. So the next thing, how do you choose fonts for web and mobile applications? I have this umbrella of safe way to choose fonts for your web and mobile application. So the first one is you can either use one sans serif with different typefaces. So you can choose Montserrat as one font that you want to use throughout. Then you can now use Montserrat regular somewhere, while you use Montserrat bold somewhere, and so on. So now the second one is you can use two sans serif fonts, different typefaces, which means you can use fonts without serif, right? You would use one as the title, mostly as the title, while you use the other one as the descriptive text. So you get to see this is the first one. This is a very good example. These are two different fonts I'm using here. But now the first one is used as title, which is very bold, while the second one is used as descriptive text. Now the next one is one serif, one sans serif with different typefaces. Now you can use one serif as title, while you use one sans serif as description, just like I have done here. Once the serif font is what I'm using as title here, while the sans serif is the one I'm using as description. On the other hand, you can switch positions and use the sans serif as the title and use the serif as description. The next one is you can use one display font and one sans serif font. So if you use a display font, you would have it as title. You don't want to use display fonts as description text or descriptive text. You want to have them as titles only. They don't work as description text where you have a lot of text. So you use them as, title, and then you use more of a sans serif font as description. This is a safe way to start using your font for web and mobile applications. But then you can always get creative. Now, I have a website where I applied different fonts. I'm going to leave the link in the description below. This is what the website looks like. I designed this using Figma and I used about 3 fonts. Even though if you are just starting out, I won't advise you to use 3 fonts because you might need to understand a little bit more on how to use typefaces and fonts. All right, that said, let's get into Wireframe. In the last video, we created this low fidelity wireframe. Now, I have explained what low fidelity and high fidelity wireframe is. If you don't know what they are, please go to the previous video. I will leave link in the description below, because in this episode, we are going to be turning the low fidelity wireframe into a high fidelity wireframe. So to turn this into a high fidelity wireframe, you need to add text. and make it a little bit more arranged. Now let's start adding text. I'm just going to click T on my keyboard and write logo in capital letters. I'm going to make that really bold, extra bold, or maybe even black, and then I'll make that 16. Now you know about Control C or Command C to copy, and then you know Control C or Command V to paste. Now what we are going to do now is copy to replace. So how that works is that I'm going to press Control C on this logo or press Control X to actually cut it. It is the same as Command X or Command C on Mac OS. Let me just use Command X. First of all, I would like to ungroup the navigation by pressing Command Shift G on Mac, Control Shift G on Windows. Yeah, I just did that twice or 3 times to ungroup everything entirely. You're going to select the rectangle we used to mean our logo, and then you're going to press Shift Option Command V to replace. So that means on Windows it's going to be Shift Alt Control V to replace with the logo. So you don't have to start deleting and then start moving things there. You just use copy to replace. Now I'm going to copy this and bring it here, use it to write about. You want to make the text a little bit more lighter, so I'll instead of black, I'll give it medium, and I'll make this let's say 18. Okay, good. Then I'm just going to delete this 4, so we can have about, we can have portfolio. If you have a gallery where you keep pictures of yourself at work or something, you can also add that. Then finally you can add contacts. Oops. Now I'm going to select the 4 text, move them to where we have this margin, and then give them equal spacing by going to where we have distribute horizontal spacing. Okay, now we have 20 space in between each text. Now what we are going to do is change that to 32. The ideal way to add spaces to your elements is by using multiples of 8 in terms of spacing. Now I use 32. You can actually divide that into multiples of 8. So you can start with maybe 2, 4, 6, then 8. From 8 you can do 16 and so on. And sometimes you might need to just add 2 to your 8, which makes it 10, then or maybe 4 or maybe 6. But then avoid using odd numbers in this case as much as you can, unless you don't have a choice. So the safe way to add spacing is by having even numbers and not odd numbers. So that said, I have 32 spacing in between my text. I'm just going to use Command G to group that. I'm going to rename this nav list. Okay, that's navigation list. I'm going to select the text and my logo and align vertically. Then I'm going to use Command G again to group, Control G on Windows. Then I'm going to rename this nav item. Finally, I'm going to select the nav item and my background, and then also align vertically to the center. Alright, so I'm going to group them again and name this navigation. So now I'm going to move the navigation to the top, or I can just use the forward bracket or the right bracket on my keyboard. On our layers, we now have navigation at the top. So I'm going to select all these rectangles and delete. Cool. I'm going to add text. I'm going to say Abib Adetokun. I'll make that bold, and I'll make it let me see, 58. Cool. Now I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to bring a copy down and change this to regular 18. So I'm just going to add my description, and whoa, it's on a straight long line. Now all I have to do is to come down to where we have auto height and select auto height. I can now move back my width. Okay, I'm kind of make it the same width with this. Now I'm going to select this and come to where we have line height. So I'm just going to come here and set it to auto. Auto can work, but then that is just for a single line text. For a description text, to derive at the appropriate spacing, you are going to have to change the line height to 1.5 times the exact font size, which is 18. Cool, that's 27. Now this is how you get to leave enough line spacing. Now you don't want to make your line spacing too close. Another thing is, you also don't want to have too many text on one line. Readers will find it boring to read, as it will be difficult to trace their eye back to the beginning of the next line. So you don't want to have more than 5, 6 text on one line. Now with that, I'm going to select these two and then change the spacing in between them to 0. All right. Maybe I should use 2. Let's see how that works. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to move the button up a little bit. This time around, I want to bring out the I want to bring out the columns so I can use it to adjust the button perfectly. Now I'm going to select button. Now I'm going to make it go across 3 columns. You can see now. Then I'm going to change the corner radius to 10. I don't want it to be too curvy. So I'm going to select the same name and change this to anything. It could be view portfolio, it could be learn more, but let's use view portfolio. Now I'm going to reduce the text to semi-bold 20. Let's see, center it within the button. Now I'm going to use Command G to group it together. So we can now rename it to button. So again, you can always move your navigation to the top. Then we have the name, then the description, then the button. So the next thing, it might be okay if you just use some text to identify that you are going to have image here. So I'm going to change this to image. Yeah. Cool. Now finally, where we have our icons, first of all, I would like to move this up a little bit to fit with the image below here. Now I will just write some description inside. Let's say icon, for example, icon 1. Remember, this icon signifies the tools that you use. So icon 1, let me change the corner radius to 10. Cool. Group this, center it first, then Ctrl G. Now I'm going to use Ctrl C to copy. Now we are going to use copy and replace by selecting the 2 other boxes, then hold down Shift, Option, Command. On PC, it's Shift, Alt, Command, and then press V to replace. Now I can change from icon 1 to icon 2 to icon 3 respectively. Okay, let's center it a little bit. So we are going to have our icons there. I'm going to select my frame and press Shift 2. So now if I zoom out and let me put off my column, now you see what we have. Our design is getting more prepared, getting more ready. Now this is a high fidelity wireframe. This is where we will stop in this episode. In the next video, we are going to be turning it from high fidelity wireframe to actual designs by adding colors and images. Now, if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and please subscribe, hit the notification button, and that way you get to be notified when there is another video. Thanks for watching.